I've been a huge linear fan since the release of D2. I mean, who can blame me? It's just a big fusion rifle. To be fair, Sleeper in D1 is technically the first linear, so I guess I've actually been a fan since Taken King. But anyway, I'm here to rank every current linear in D2. In a tier list from great, to good, to mid, to bad. I'll be using the weapon's possible god roll for DPS, and also probably some personal bias, but I'll try to keep it as unbiased as I can. But no promises. Corsair's Wrath. Unusable. This is genuinely some of the worst perk selections I've seen on a weapon. The only reload perk this thing has is Outlaw. Now imagine using a linear for DPS and having to rely on killing the boss for a quicker reload, and even then a critical hit kill for it. It's just not happening. Same with its damage, a kill clip just isn't viable for DPS at all, and high impact reserves hardly matters when other perks can deal more. An overall useless weapon. Tarantula. Bad, borderline unusable. This thing is on thin ice already. Let me be clear from the beginning, it sucks. Although it's certainly trying to be good, it's just not there. Field Prep is the minimum I'd expect for a DPS phase. It's a pretty good perk, but it's definitely much better. But for damage, sweet lord, I cannot believe I'm saying this, the best damage perk on this thing is Box Breathing. Box Breathing sucks. It only affects your first shot if you want optimal DPS. There's simply not a good way to rotate for DPS on this thing. Threaded Needle, good. Now when this first came out in Chosen, I would have put this in top tier. Same tier as Sleeper. But now that some time has passed and power has creeped, Needle is feeling a little bit tired. This thing's got some great rolls on it though. Clown Car, Rapid Hit, Auto-Loading and Field Prep are all fantastic choices. The real issue comes in when you look at the damage perks. Frenzy would be good, but because it's reliant on being in combat and sometimes the game thinks the setup to DPS doesn't count as combat, the Big Harpy Inspire is the first one that comes to mind. Vorpal used to be the go-to, brainless choice, but since then it's been nerfed, especially on heavies, now only giving a 10% bonus. It's a good amount of additional damage, but other perks can deal more by leaps and bounds for barely any more effort. But this thing might be my one true case of bias speaking here. This linear easily lands in the good tier. Reed's Regret. Great. The first great weapon on this list. This is one of the oldest weapons to have survived the test of time that isn't a raid weapon. This used to be famous for its ability to font stack for DPS, and now that font stacking is dead, we have to judge the weapon purely on its perks. And does it have some great ones? Clown Car or Auto-Loading with Fire Line would be fantastic for raid DPS, but my personal choice for Reed would be Triple Tap and Focus Fury, allowing extended damage output from one mag on this thing. Now, obviously this isn't the best linear in the game, not by a long shot, but in terms of availability, especially since Trials will now drop more weapons on just wins, meaning you can spend more engrams focusing for this beauty. Cataclysmic. Great. Now this is my jam. This linear shaped DPS metas for an entire year, and to be fair, with Cold Comfort and Apex Predator now rolling with bait and switch, I'd say the DPS meta is still rolling strong, the first raid weapon on our list, and it really does feel worthy of the title of Endgame Loot. The very first heavy weapon to roll with the perk Bait and Switch, which, if activated, deals an additional 35% damage. You can rest assured knowing that for a long time this was almost everyone's go-to. There's really only two rolls to go for, Fourth Time's the Charm and Bait and Switch, or Focus Fury. But since Focus Fury requires spending half your mag and only deals an additional 20%, Bait and Switch should be your choice here. Another issue with this weapon is actually getting your hands on it. Not everyone can raid, and even then, VOW isn't a particularly easy raid in comparison to others. But if you're willing to put up with the raid, this is definitely one to go for. The Taipan 4 FR. Great. Speaking of acquirement, this linear is the definition of a handout. It's practically given to you as a crafted weapon from a quest on Mars. The only thing you've got to do is actually level it up, which, as of this season, is easier than ever, thanks to the fact you can just buy your levels now. And then also pick your god roll. Realistically speaking, there's only 2 or 3. In the right column, the options come down to Firing Line, if you're playing with 2 other players, Focus Fury, if you're confident in landing precision hits, or Frenzy, if you're not. Then, in the left column, you can pick Triple Tap if you're confident you can keep up with those precision hits, Field Prep if you want to keep up with good ammo economy, and a quicker reload to go with it, or Clown Cartridge if you want to be able to dump as much ammo as possible in one go without thinking too much. The ease to acquire, the functionality, and the reliability of this linear easily place it in great tier. Sales by Pitch Glass. Mid. This is the first linear in this list to have a fun roll. It's got a good DPS roll too, don't get me wrong, but I just wanted to get the Outlaw Vault Shot roll out of the way first. It's fun, but hardly practical thanks to how many other weapons can now get Volt Shot, especially primaries. In terms of DPS rolls, it lands fairly similarly to other linears, except it can roll rapid hit rather than auto-loading or triple tap. But I'd still suggest Focus Fury. Here's another fun roll idea with this linear. Choose Swash as your damage perk, and use a melee build like Arc Hunter or Solar Titan. A good boss for this that comes to mind is Goal Run and Duality, but realistically it's too unreliable to activate every damage phase on most bosses, so whilst it's got some fun rolls, its damage rolls and actual acquisition make Pitch Glass just mid. Laser Painter, mid. Let me be entirely clear here. I have a soft spot for this linear. It's the first strand linear, it's Viced, meaning you can just regen ammo if you're dealing damage. It's got a genuinely great roll, Rapid Hit, Focus Fury, but here's the downside. Gambit. Yeah, that's right, you have to play Gambit to get it. On paper, it's not enough to dog on this gun, but realistically, I'm not playing Gambit for what is just one good roll out of 24 perks. Especially since Taipan is just free. So no matter what, that's what I'm going to suggest people to use. I wanted to rank all aggressive frames separately last, since in my opinion, the way in which they fire drastically adjusts their use case and feel, to the point where I know at least 3 other players who won't use them, because the recoil is too much to handle between shots. Personally, I'm a sweaty mouse and keyboard player, so it doesn't affect me as much as my controller friends, but I thought it was only fair to bring this up because of the differences. Storm Chaser, mid, bordering good. What is possibly the saddest case of power creep? Storm Chaser used to be the go-to for players who didn't play Valve Disciple. Storm Chaser's 2 best perks come with painful drawbacks, Frenzy and Firing Line, which we've discussed why they're just not ideal for DPS, especially if you're a solo player. But Rapid Hit and Autoloading are still powerful reload perks for this linear. Ultimately, I say to use this only if you tick the 2 following boxes. You love aggressive linears, you can't run a raid or an exotic mission. Otherwise, I'd suggest another linear. Fire and Forget. Good. A little bit more bias coming in here. I love this linear, but it's not like I love it without good reason. But you will have to hear me out. Field Prep is realistically the only perk in the left column to go for, but in the right column I'd suggest Focus Fury for a more baseline DPS weapon, or Chill Clip if you're looking to aid your friends, since they'll deal more damage as the boss becomes more slowed than a large burst of damage when the boss freezes and bursts. Not to mention, it's a voiced weapon, so Chill Clip can have even more uptime as the origin perk reloads the mag. Briar's Contempt. Great. This is the main reason I even ran Root of Nightmares as much as I did. This linear is so versatile it's outstanding, mainly in the left hand column. Ambitious Assassin, Rewind Rounds, Demolitionist, and Reconstruction. Demo is only really there since it can allow a quick and easy reload of the weapon with very little downtime in between an empty mag and a full mag, the caveat being you'll need a full grenade charge. In the right column, the only perk I could suggest in my right mind is Focus Fury, but surrounded in the right circumstance could deal a huge bonus 40% damage. Another bonus to this weapon is relevant to the most recent dungeon, Ghosts of the Deep. The origin perk of this linear will deal additional damage against Lightbearer Hive. The final boss of Ghosts might be the most annoying boss in the game, so dealing any more damage against it is greatly appreciated. Conclusively, I'd say, whilst there aren't that many linears in the game compared to other heavies, they've got some of the best choices, in my opinion. I hope this guide helps you pick some of the best DPS options in the game, and I thoroughly hope you enjoy them as much as I do.